Happy birthday, Bull. It is Tuesday. It's actually Tuesday morning. It's 10:07 a.m. All three of us got some wonky, crazy schedules this week, so we were like, hey, we may have time to do Behind the Glass, may not have time to do Behind the Glass, but we had 20 minutes to come down here and talk some sports this morning. So on Bull's birthday, we are doing a little impromptu Behind the Glass. We have no plan. We have no script. It's myself. It's Earl the Pearl, as always. It's Anthony Antonelli behind the glass. And first and foremost, it is Bull's birthday.
Happy birthday, Bull.
So happy birthday, Bull. Sometimes we get annoyed with you. Sometimes you frustrate us. At the end of the day, it is all love, and we do love what Bull brings to the show on a day-in, day-out basis. If you saw the top five that we haven't done yet because it's 10:08 a.m. now, it's going to air on the show later today. If we missed anything, make sure you guys let us know in the comments what we may have missed on our top five things that Bull absolutely hates. I'm sure we missed a bunch, right?
I hope he gets irritated when he sees it.
Oh, he will.
I hope his gears get grinded immediately when he sees the top five. I thought it was chef kiss work.
We put our heads together. We came up with a good one. Anthony had a couple good suggestions. Earl had a couple good suggestions. I threw a few in there, and I think it came out to be something pretty funny that we're going to end the show with today.
Yeah.
That you saw earlier today that we ended the show with. So that is that. Okay, a couple of things to talk about. We'll start Cleveland, and then we're going to go big picture. So I do want to do one thing, Cleveland. The Guardians and Royals tonight are starting a series. And these are the two best teams in the AL Central. These are arguably the two best stories in baseball, two teams that had minimal to average expectations that are overachieving through the early parts of the year. If the Guardians can win 2 of 3 against Kansas City, Earl, and then Ann, I'll come to you next, then we'll talk Caitlin Clark and the rest of the stuff we're going to talk about. If they can win 2 of 3 from this series and establish themselves as the premier team in the AL Central, will the people who have yet to fully jump on the bandwagon have anything left to cling to? Or is this officially if they win, it's all in and this team is a legit contender? Is that the way you're looking at this?
I mean, for me, I'm all in, but I think in the grand scheme of things, I think if the Guardians can win 2 or 3 or sweep, I think it's a huge confidence boost for the fan base of the Cleveland Guardians. But knowing how, Clevelanders are or people who cheer for Cleveland-based teams, there's something in you that does wait for the bottom to fall out. Like, there's still going to be people that say, okay, well, it's June, right? Like, prove it to me in September. And then if you make the playoffs, don't stop hitting in October. And so I think I would say it'd probably be about 80-20. I think 80% would be fully bought in. I've told you for a while now.
You've been bought in for a while.
I've been bought in for a while now. I think if the bottom was going to fall out of this thing, it had the opportunity to do so after we lost 3 straight to Chicago, after the starting rotation was a mess, after, we couldn't really put some runs on the board. And it didn't happen. We rebounded, and we got right back on track. So for me, I would say it'd be a good 80% that's bought in if we can go out here and win 2 out of 3 against Kansas City. But I'll take that. I'll take it.
And what do you think?
I'm bought in. I'm in every year on the Guardians. I love them. But I think a lot of people are still going to even hold out, even if we sweep, till the trade deadline. Because we were in the mix last year and gave it all up at the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a big wait and see what happens at the trade deadline from a lot of people still.
Yeah, they were just linked to Bo Bichette, Jeff Passan, Solon guy from Cleveland. Baseball's Woj did his whole article on rumors he's hearing and thinks he's hearing, and he tied Bichette to the Guardians as a potential landing destination. We'll talk about that later in the week. But I will say the Guardians have proven enough to me that they are I don't think they're maybe as good as they've shown. I don't think they're going to win 65% of their games for an entire season. But they're clearly better than we thought they could be, and that's a credit to Stephen Vogt and Jose and Josh and Naylor and David Fry, all these guys contributing. If they win 2 of 3 or sweep, if you don't hop on, my question is, what the hell are you waiting for? Mm-hmm. What more could you possibly see? They've beaten good teams. They've beaten bad teams. They've crushed bad teams. Then they would have beaten everyone in the division. They're 5-0 against the Twins already. What else would they have to do for you to buy in? So, from me to you, if the Guardians win, stop being a loser. Buy in for yourself. There's no reason not to. And enjoy the summer. More than anything else, enjoy the fact that we have good quality baseball on a night-in, night-out basis when there's no Cavs, there's no Browns, there's all this ancillary stuff. What up, Ty? Ty, you want to join Behind the Glass?
Might as well come on Behind the Glass.
Come in.
We got a special guest on Behind the Glass, a little impromptu.
Making his Behind the Glass debut
How
here.
You doing, man? What's up?
What's going on, man?
Welcome to the party. We had 20 minutes, so we said,
Yeah.
let's shoot a little something,
Let
a
me
little
mic
something.
up. We ain't been in this chair in a long time.
All right, so Ty, we'll ask you this, and we'll move on to what else we're going to talk about. If the Guardians win 2 or 3 against the Royals this week,
Yes.
if you had, not you, but if someone hadn't bought into this team yet, would they be forced to if they could beat the Royals?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Guardians, when the Guardians went on that hot streak, the Royals was going on the same hot streak. I think they racked off like 8 or 9 in a row.
Guardians won 9 in a row,
And
the Royals won 8 and 1
Yeah,
in the same stretch.
yeah, so it was like, as good as the Guardians was playing, the Royals was in that same thing. So we couldn't figure out exactly if this thing was real or not. Well, now that they're going head-to-head, now you can create some separation. If the Guardians take the majority of these games, you have no choice but to say that this team is legit. They've been playing really well. The pitching's got well. The hitting is well. Why would you not buy into them? It would be astounding not to buy into the Guardians right now.
So we're all on the same page. Guardians start a 3-game set tonight. As you're watching this, the Guards are playing. If you're not at the game and you're not watching this, what are you doing? But make sure y'all tune in. And it's going to be a fun 3 days here in Cleveland. The crowds over the weekend against Washington were incredible.
Crazy, yeah.
Incredible. I expect the same tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday against Kansas City. Let's talk about something else here, Tyvis. And you were literally getting thrown in the fire because you have no idea what the plan is.
That's how I operate, though.
That's
I work
when Tyvis
best
is at
like
his
this.
best, exactly, in the free flow, freestyle of this media world that he decides he partakes in. But Earl,
Sometimes.
when he wants to.
Yeah,
We talked a little bit about it yesterday
Yeah.
in overtime. And the discourse has kind of grown, and there was the whole Pat McAfee situation, and he issued his apology. And we're talking about the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, WNBA, Monica McNutt, Stephen A. Smith discourse on not just what's happening on the court between the players, but how to discuss it in our world from the media side. And it doesn't seem like there's any consensus from anybody on how it should be covered, what should be covered, and what's the appropriate discourse and conversations to have. So, Earl, I'm going to give you the first lick at this. You can take it in any direction you want. We'll kind of bounce off where you start.
I got it. Like, usually I'm cool, right? I really don't engage. I try not to engage in the social media stuff, let people say whatever. But yesterday I put out a tweet. I said if I was Caitlin Clark's father, I would have to go see Pat. He flat out disrespected her.
And he's talking about Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee, right?
Just to give a little context.
Pat McAfee, ESPN got his own show. Pat is great. Love him,
We
right?
got to say what he said, though. Or I'm going to try to paraphrase, but only because in case you missed it.
Right.
If you missed it, Pat McAfee, in an attempt to defend Caitlin Clark, essentially trying to say Angel Reese and everyone else, like, stop it, Caitlin's the main draw. He called her
a white female dog.
A white female
yes.
dog, right?
And he apologized for it and said he
Right.
shouldn't have used that language. His point was pro Caitlin, but he used a term that he probably he definitely should not have.
This was my whole thing behind it, right? You use that term. That for 90% of women, that's a derogatory term.
Mm-hmm.
For the other 10%, you better check in before you even let that come out your mouth.
Correct.
It don't matter what your race is. You don't cross those lines. And I said what made me even more uncomfortable is, in my opinion, he felt too comfortable. Because if that was Angel Reese he was talking about, he would have never called her a black female dog because of the blowback.
Yeah.
So show Caitlin Clark that same courtesy, that same respect. There's no need to disrespect her. Then I had people coming at me saying, well, he was paying it forward with a compliment. Like, what do you mean? I'm not an aggressive dude. Like, I don't initiate violence or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I truly believe on is, and you the same way, like, you protect women and children at all costs. You got to stand for something to fall for anything. It's amazing how people want to try to check my moral code and my moral compass because I said I'll lay hands on you for disrespecting somebody that I care about.
Correct.
Like, verbal abuse is abuse. It's a form of abuse. Abuse just don't come in the physical sense, right? And like, he was mad disrespectful. Yeah, he apologized, but do you know what you're apologizing for? Or are you just apologizing because of the blowback that came and you felt it's necessary? The thing that started to get under my skin is people want to coddle like Caitlin Clark like she's some type of baby. She a grown woman, and to me, she a big stepper, right? Like she built for this. Yeah. She get out there, she talk her shit just like everybody else, and she can back it up just like every other star player.
People forget she was the one waving off Raven Johnson in the game
so
last year. Like,
I feel like a lot of times, like, she doesn't get the respect that she deserves, and then she catches like false heat or indirect heat for narratives that other people is creating.
Yep.
When Caitlin Clark is
Spot
really
on.
built for this. You know what I'm saying?
She doesn't open her mouth, and she says
don't say nothing.
all the stuff that people don't like Caitlin Clark for,
Right.
or what other people talk about Caitlin Clark,
Yeah.
except Caitlin Clark.
It don't make sense.
And Tyvis, I'm curious from your standpoint on this, and then Ann, I want you to weigh in. We didn't mention this yesterday. We talked about the hip check from Chennedy Carter, and that was not a basketball play, whatever. It's not the first bad foul. It's not the worst thing that ever happened. She hip checked or whatever. Where in the world were Caitlin Clark's teammates?
That's what I want to know.
Like of all
what
the
I wanna
outrage,
know.
and it didn't hit me till I watched. They kept showing the replay on ESPN last night, and I kept watching and watching and watching. This woman was drafted number 1 overall.
Yeah.
This woman is going to, whether you like it or not, she's going to be the face. She might already be the face of the WNBA, and she's going to be.
Yeah.
The team isn't very good.
No, I think
And a
they're
lot of
like
her
2-8
teammates,
or something like that.
yeah, a lot of her teammates probably won't be there when they get good. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And when Chennedy Carter hip checks you 94 feet from the basket on a clearly non-basketball play, and no one steps to her as she walks the entire way back to the court, I had an issue with that more than I had an issue with the hip check, more than I had an issue with a lot of the discourse that's come out of the hip check. But that's, Thomas, if someone knocked over Donovan Mitchell, or you saw what happened with Jose. Like,
It's just outrageous.
Let's use us right here on this set.
If anybody,
If somebody came at one of us on this set, you think everybody else ain't getting up and coming after you?
When I was a sophomore, we're playing Riviere, and one of their players gave a little shoulder check to our coach, Jim O'Brien, who coached at Ohio State, who was old. He's like 74. He was like 68 years old. No punches were thrown, but benches cleared.
Yeah.
Like, you don't touch coach. Like, that's off limits.
Yeah.
And for them to hip check her in a clearly hard foul is one thing, but in a not to have nobody come over and come to her defense, I thought that was embarrassing from the Fever. I'm not gonna lie.
that, to be honest with you, with the Caitlin Clark thing, I think that it's a lot of jealousy there, and it's hard for people to right now swallow that pill that she will be the face, or she is the face, or she's quote unquote the main attraction. You know, people like Kelsey Mitchell that's been there, or Aaliyah Boston, or all these women that's been in the
Her
WNBA
teammates.
that's been balling for all of these years. You know, it's hard to sit back and be like, we've been doing this all this time, and this one girl comes in here, now all of a sudden all of these things change. And I'm on with Angel Reese's side. My thing with Angel Reese is what she's saying is correct, but her wording and delivery is terrible. Like, she was saying, like, it's not because of one person, it's because of me. Like, don't say me, because of us. Like, if you say it's because of us, like this class that came in, you know, it's not, because quite frankly, none of these rookie women are just having phenomenal seasons like that.
No, they're not.
They're
all
like Caitlin Clark struggling, Angel Reese is struggling, Cam Brink's struggling. All of them are really struggling right now to not where they've taken off. You know, they've had moments, but they haven't really taken off. So, yeah, the popularity is up because of Angel Reese going up against Caitlin Clark. I think that back in college when they had that game, it was really Bird and Magic-esque. It was just like that.
And it's two totally different audiences, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what made that rivalry, and whether they want to be or don't want to be, they'll always be intertwined.
Yes.
Going back to their college days, they came out of high school the same year. Obviously, Angel went to Maryland, struggled, transferred to LSU, thrives, won a national championship. Caitlin Clark dominated 4 years. Like, two very different audiences that intertwined in one space, and now they are being funneled back out, and they can't necessarily come together to find that common ground, because it's like a lot of today's society.
Well, it's because
you're planted and you don't want to budge.
It's because it's like Caitlin doesn't really say anything, you know, and it's like Angel is trying to defend everybody else. Like, it's not because of just Caitlin, it's all of us. And it's not like Caitlin's coming out like, yeah, I'm the reason that all these people are. She's not saying none of that, even though that might be the case, because her style of play is interesting. It was something that people hadn't really seen, you know, a Steph Curry-like female version of Steph Curry in the WNBA. So everybody followed that. Everybody followed her career. She has such an amazing career. But you got to have the villain, and Angel Reese was deemed the villain because of what happened in college. And, you know, I don't understand the hate from the rest of the women in the WNBA because of this. Yes, Caitlin Cark is a big part of it. Because of the rest of the women as well, y'all getting better flights, more attendance, more sponsorships, more
Money's
eyeballs
gonna
on
go
it.
up too,
Money's
by the way.
going up. So I don't understand where the hate is coming from. You know, I thought Becky Hammon and Asia Wilson was saying it correctly. Like stop hating on that girl. Like, she's helping this product. And I don't see why in this world, if we can show love to somebody, but we gotta show hate to somebody else. Like, you don't need to hate on Angel Reese because you love Caitlin Clark, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Like that, it doesn't. You can love both of them equally. I think both of them are really good basketball players, and they're both helping the popularity of this sport, and that's why people tune in. So the WNBA is here to stay. I like what it is at. It's really good basketball. Actually, I've been watching the WNBA for about 2 years now because I was into the Las Vegas Aces with Kelsey Plum and Asia Wilson doing their thing. So
Kelsey Mitchell too.
yeah, Kelsey Mitchell. I hoop with her at
and
Old
Chelsea Gray. So
I hoop with Kelsey Mitchell at Old State, and I knew she was that deal. So
Oh yeah, she get busy.
oh my goodness,
She
she
get
threw
busy.
me a down. I dropped it. I couldn't believe it.
But to your point though, I think the evolution is going to continue. You know, because you're gonna have Paige Beggars coming out next year. Eventually, Juju is going to come out.
Next 2 years, you got Paige and then Juju back
And
to back,
Juju,
and they're
you know,
getting the same treatment.
you got Shaq's daughter who's committed to Florida. So
And it's the girl from Notre Dame. I keep forgetting her
Her
name.
too.
Hildrago.
Yeah.
So this thing is the train is going to keep rolling, and I think the WNBA is going to continue to expand to add more teams. I know Detroit is looking to get in the shock back.
Toronto got one.
They're getting
right?
2 more, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's going to go to 14, Golden State and
Golden
Toronto.
State,
in the next 2
Toronto.
years. And they want to expand more after that.
They need to bring
start.
it back. The Cleveland Rockies
The
need
Ro-
to come
yeah,
back.
the
I
Rockets
don't know
definitely need to come back.
What's going on with that?
Man, for me, you know, I've really been locked in to the women's game on every level for about 7 years now. Like,
Well, your daughter's into it, right?
yeah, but before that, like, you know, I was watching Nas Hillman hoop at Gilmore, like her junior year, her senior year, and naturally, if you're following her career, you're being exposed to all these other players.
Correct.
You know, she went and did the Olympics and all that other stuff. She get to Michigan. She hooping in the Big Ten. If you ask me, she the reason Angel Reese transferred up out of Maryland.
Probably.
She was like, I gotta get up out of here right now. I gotta go. So it's like I've watched the evolution of this game for the last 7 years, and I'm proud to see where it's at because, as you alluded to, I got daughters who got hoop dreams.
Yep.
You know, they want to play in the WNBA, and by the time they get their opportunity, you know, because of what Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and everybody, Asia Wilson, like the players before her time, because of the groundwork that they're laying right now, it's going to be a much smoother path for her. You know, once they get to that level, and I just think like people need to really appreciate what's going on. But give them the same energy that you would give to men. Stop trying to like coddle these women,
Yeah.
like they need that, and they don't.
It's you don't know because it was off of Love and Basketball. You remember at the beginning
Terrible
of
movie.
Stop saying that. You
gotta
stop
cut
saying
that out.
You gonna stop. So on Love and Basketball, it was at the beginning of the scene where Monica is playing. She's in high school and she like the girl go for a shot. She blocks it,
yeah.
and she mug her and they tee her up. And then she's like, she goes crazy.
Yeah.
And then she talking to Q like, you talk your smack and you get a pat on your butt, but because I'm a lady, I gotta act like a lady. Like, no, that I like
A
that.
hooper's a hooper.
Yeah,
A hooper is
I
a
like
hooper.
the attitude makes it better. If you want to see really good competition, you want these people to have a slight attitude on the court against each other, because that's when you know you getting the best on the best. And if I bust your butt when you at your best, you know I'm better than you. I live for the trash talk. I talk with the best of them. As a matter of fact, I'm texting Sherm right now talking about how slow he was, how he missed out on all this money. So I live for it.
But it's like, you know, we talked about the foul from Chennedy Carter. We talked about Alyssa Thomas pulling down Angel Reese. Draymond Green punched Yusuf Nurkic in the face this year, chokeholded and slammed Rudy Gobert down. Like it happens in sports. Like, that is the best part of the WNBA, the best and the worst part of the WNBA getting this notoriety. Is now, the best part is there's so many new eyes on the game.
Yeah.
And so many new fans of the women, the sport, and what it brings. And if you don't like it, fine, so be it. It's not for everybody, just like regular basketball and football, not for everybody. The worst part is that on the one hand, it's made it because it's now being talked about on shows like this, all the way up to the First Takes of the world. Mm-hmm. You're hearing some of the dumbest takes in the history of American sports talk ever.
Yeah, there you
come
go.
out of it because they don't know how to discuss it. And I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. I just know what's not it. And we've seen a lot of what's not it over the last month since the WNBA season started, because it's bringing in takes from people who have, A, never watched before this year, and that's really clear. I think you guys can both. I know you
Oh, yeah.
watched for a while.
Yeah,
I
you
watched
can-
for a while.
I've been watching for
Like-
a couple years.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell people who it's the first time they've ever seen the WNBA, and they have to talk on it because of their platform from an educated perspective or an attempted educated perspective, and it doesn't come off as educated. And two, they miss like the bottom line and the reality of the situation. And if you don't have that context to begin with, it's hard to then put into perspective what you're seeing now. You talked about the other day. There have been brawls and beefs and hard fouls and dislike between players in the WNBA since it started in 97 was the first year, whatever it was. Like, this is not new to women's basketball. It's sport. And I'm curious what you think, because we haven't heard from you in a sec. Oh, and Ant's doing something over behind the glass. And it's truly behind the glass, so I'll pass that to you guys. But
He getting his director reps in.
yeah, but
he love that. He
I know,
won't admit it. He
that's what
loves
wants
it.
to do, yeah. He's like, I don't have to talk perfect. Tyler's here, I'm out.
So that's why I come around the court. Yeah, you want to get in the chair? That's what it was.
He said, I got work to do.
But no, like, it. On the one hand, it's awesome that it's getting the attention it should have been getting for a while. On the other hand, it is bringing out the worst in a lot of people, trying to talk about it in ways I don't think they should be talking about it.
I think it's showing a lot of emotions too. You know, Monica McNutt was on First Take ESPN yesterday.
She was turned.
And she flat out told Stephen that, you know, you could have been talking about the WNBA
3
years ago. And, like, you could tell the emotion behind it. And
It pissed Stephen A. off.
It
That
really
pissed
did.
him off.
It really pissed him off. And his thing is, well, I've done a lot to help women. You won't hear women's basketball being talked about on any other platform. I know me personally, anytime I host, any opportunity I get to have a female guest on, I take it. Anytime I get to, you know, there's an opportunity to talk about the WNBA, I take it. You know, we led with the championship game last year. That was our lead topic on the show. And even though, you know, people kind of was not really for it, we did it anyway, and it worked. And so, like, I think that we're all trying to find, you know, our lane and our proper way to talk about it. And it's always good to get to ask questions, right? You know what I'm saying? To get educated on what's going on before you go out here and make a fool of yourself. Because as men, we got to be careful, because we can put ourselves in situations to where we got to walk back some words and got to apologize when we meant no harm. You know what I mean? So, like, it's a slippery slope that we all trying to learn how to climb.
Ty, we got to wrap in a sec, but final thoughts on the whole flagrant foul, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Pat McAfee's comments, Monica McNutt versus Stephen A. Smith last night, where Stephen A. Smith went on his show.
My whole
Final thoughts.
thoughts on that is Pat McAfee was wrong. You should have you shouldn't have used that language at all. I mean, you gotta first of all, Earl is right. You can't just be throwing that word out because it's very derogatory to a lot of women. And even if you do it in a friend standpoint, y'all got to be like close, like to be able to even use that word. Me personally, I don't even use that word towards women because I just think it's completely disrespectful. So you do owe an apology to that young lady for saying something like that, and her father should be upset for being for that. So yeah, you was wrong for that. As far as the Stephen A. And the First Take episode goes, listen, it's one of those things that he could have done more. And that's the thing with anything in life. As a person, we all can do more. There's always more that we can be doing. Anytime you think that you arrived, there's always some more extra that you could be doing to help pay it forward, to help bring insight and light to something else. So Stephen A. shouldn't have taken it as disrespectful as he did, because deep down he can look at himself and say, you know what, yeah, I could have spent 10 more minutes, or I could have got another guest on here and we could have talked about a little bit more. That's true. But she also can have some respect and say, listen, he's here now. You know, maybe it wasn't what you wanted to be, but now it's here now, and let's try to get on the same page to keep this thing going. I don't want it to be a feud to where now he feels some type of way and he might go like, well, I ain't gonna talk about you at all and see how you do it. See, like, that's not helping the situation. At the end of the day, this product is growing. Everybody needs to get on this train to keep this product going, to get these women paid, because they deserve that money. They're playing hard, they're sacrificing their lives, and that is some good product that they're putting out there. They are really playing some good basketball. Make sure you tune in and watch it. I think you will be surprised how good women's basketball actually can be.
I'll wrap with this, and I told this to Earl and Ant as we were walking downstairs to do this. You may say you just want the game, and you may say you just want to hear the X's and O's and the analysis of why the Fever ran a pin-down screen on Leah Boston's side as opposed to on the flip side with Nalissa Smith and Kelsey Mitchell. You may want to hear about the halftime adjustment the New York Liberty made that cost them the win against the Minnesota Lynx. The reality is, no, you don't. You want the drama. You want the beef. That's what makes sports fun. Like, that is what... Why is Pittsburgh versus Cleveland such a fun matchup year in, year out? Because we hate Steelers fans, right? Because there's a natural bad blood and you want to beat the living piss out of them. Well, that's what makes sports fun, and we're seeing it in the WNBA. And for the first time, it's not happening. There's just a magnifying glass over it. And people who haven't been paying attention are seeing that it's just like the rest of the world. It's the natural part of sports that you cannot and should not try to eradicate. And eventually, it's that level of notoriety and attention that's bringing it to the game that will increase the totality of the WNBA from where it is now, which, whatever scale you want, I'm just going to put it here. I'm not saying it's in the middle, to a level that it has never been before. So for me, keep it up. Like, give me the popcorn. I'm going to sit back and watch because I could also enjoy great basketball while also enjoying a great steak on the side. And by steak, I mean beef. That's a terrible analogy. Whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
On that note,
It was a good try.